6 o'clock Pacific, 9 o'clock in the East. Of course, you know we wouldn't miss it. We're halfway through October now. We've got two more events to go. We've got Abu Dhabi coming up, and we've got Saudi Arabia. I mean, low key, things are brewing underneath. Of course, you know your guys at Slap News continue to work daily to bring you guys unprecedented coverage in the slap fighting game. You know, the odd time you got to put a feather in our cap ding. We put a lot of content out. We try to find the storylines. And I mean, right now, it's kind of that calm before the storm. As of right now, the athletes are getting ready. We know they're starting to fly here in the coming days over to Abu Dhabi. And I think there's some great storylines that are starting to percolate here as they kind of unfold. I know sometimes when we're in the mix, we're doing the interviews, etc. It's hard to know what's made public and what isn't. So I may break some news here. So if you are watching along, you're going to get some alpha. We definitely appreciate everybody that's watching live, or if you're watching on the playback, whether it's on YouTube or on Facebook, we appreciate you for doing so. Dang, the past week in the slap world, what's caught your attention?
Yeah, you know what? I mean, I think part of what's interesting about having 2 weeks back to back where you have an event is we're getting now some trickling of the main card or the live card for Power Slap 17. Power Slap 16 hasn't even happened yet. So I anticipate we'll see a lot of content sort of recapping and living on from Power Slap 16 over that week as we head into Power Slap 17. I mean, there's 7 calendar days apart in the same region. I've said before I was a little concerned about what that would look like for content longevity, from each event.
Mhm.
I guess will remain to be seen. But I think one of the big storylines that we kind of came upon it, I'd say, I don't want to say by accident, but sort of is, Kalani Vakamelalo versus Juicy Finau. Like, I don't know that anybody thought to put that match together, but obviously Juicy calls him out, right? Talks about how important that would be to not only the Polynesians, but the Tongan culture more specifically. Kalani, as a gentleman, just kind of, put a handshake emoji and their flag. And, I just think I could see the passion and understand kind of why they would be so jazzed about it. And I think, just based on the reception that we've gotten from both of their fan bases, seems like the Polynesians and the Tongans are really into this.
Absolutely. I mean, the two marquee fights for this card were released now in August. So, there hasn't been a lot of talk about it, but obviously Ron Wolverine Beta taking on Alan Klingbeil in that main event. We've got the light heavyweight strap on the line. We know over in Saudi they love, Ron Wolverine Beta. Alan Klingbeil kind of low key coming into this one. A lot of people have him as the underdog. However, there seems to be a lot of faith kind of starting to pop up that Allen could be dangerous. He could be somebody that could come in here and possibly pull out a surprise. We know he's had a bit of a mixed bag of tricks. Ran into Luke Simons with that loss, was able to avenge that loss, and now he's getting his opportunity to take on Wolverine in Saudi Arabia. We know that he's taken incredibly serious. He's taken a leave from his job to be able to focus, I believe, the last 45 days or so completely on this moment. And so we're going to see two tacticians, two guys that have continued to try different styles and push the game forward. Seemingly we haven't, especially on this show, haven't talked about that match a little bit. So maybe later on we'll get into that. But then also Dumpling versus McKinney Manu going down. What a phenomenal match in the super heavyweight division. A match that could steal, even the Thunder away from that title match. I think, there's two big personalities. I know they don't speak the same language, but but we've seen McKinney Manu, come into his own, feel incredibly comfortable in his last match against, Dwayne Crespo in NOLA. And we're going to see how that kind of all unravels. And I mean, Dumpling keep lining up the Hawaiians, the Polys. And, we're going to see, is he able to get another one under his belt? Or is one McKinney Manu going to rise to fame and potentially take on, Dane Viernes in a future super heavyweight championship match? We will find out in relative quick succession here. I love the pace of this, man. I love the pace of the fights as it relates. And so I'm pretty excited for both these matches.
Yeah, absolutely, man. No disagreement here. I think, like I said, 2 events, 7 days. I'm curious, kind of what will become the story as both of these things unfold. Right, we're looking at something close to. Um, I want to say there's at least 6 undercard matches on each. So you're looking at 14, 28 matches. So almost 60 athletes that are going to be, showcased here, both taped and aired. coming in the next by October 31st, we'll have, and there's a lot of people coming from another place,
Mhm.
and whether that's China, some Kazakhstan, some Nigeria, right? A lot of the things that Frank sort of teased in the beginning, relating to um, the interview that you were able to do with him when you were in Las Vegas during Powerside 15 week. So I think ultimately, a lot of that stuff is coming to fruition, and I'm really interested to see how it'll play out and who the big stars will be. Obviously, news drops today that there's a lightweight match, 155 pounds, right? International guys, one representing Kazakhstan, one representing China. I don't know that anybody saw that one coming, but if you've watched the Frank interview, excuse me, if you haven't, you should. But if you watched it, he teased a lot of cool stuff and different people and getting this person involved and that person involved from this country. And so, we're seeing all that kind of come to fruition now, and I think it's really exciting. But we got some interesting guests lined up for today, man. I honestly don't know. I don't know what the subject matter will be when it comes to the chief. To be honest with you, there's a lot of rumors swirling. He's gone on live a few times and said a couple things, so we'll dig into that. To be quite honest, I don't really know the direction it'll go.
Mhm.
I'm not sure what the chief has on his mind. I know he has a lot on his mind. I'm not sure what that is going to look like, but definitely interested to catch up with him and figure out what's going on in his world. Obviously his division is obviously changing quite a bit with the entry of guys like Stunt Marshall, AJ Static Hints, presumably kind of heading to the bottom side of those rankings, right? Brandon Rhodes again getting another victory. Brandon Bordeaux losing the belt, Trenton Bordeaux losing his debut, right? Chief and Godfrey kind of have been in there, so it'll be interesting to see how all of that plays out. So really excited to talk to him.
Yeah, let's bring him in. Let's get at it.
Is he there?
Guys like Stunt Marshall. What's up, guys?
Chief,
Static Hints.
how are you, brother? How are you?
Good.
Good to catch up with you, man. Sorry, I know that we're just trying to work through some delays and stuff like that. For those of you who are roasting me in the comments about the damn green screen, it is a green screen. If you've never heard of it, now you know it's a green screen. Okay. People are like, "What's he in the cookie factory?" I'm like, I don't know what cookie factory has a green screen. Yeah, that's what people are saying. They're like, he's in a prison cell. Like, if you've been to prison and it's green, let me know. I'd love to talk about it. But Chief, how are you, man? How are things in your world?
Good.
How are things with your life and your day to day?
Enjoying the island life, happy to be home and being around like-minded people. Doing security. I brought some security down to the island, so giving my intake on who and what to work with. That's been great, So just staying busy, training hard. By the way, does it look like I'm on steroids, boys? I had to put that out there.
So talk to me about that. Since you opened up the door, let's dig into it. So what you've gone, I've caught a few snippets of different times that you've gone live recently. Obviously I want to be very respectful because I think accusations of PEDs is a big deal, I think, to any professional athlete. So, I'm assuming based on what you just said that there's no truth to any of that. But what is going on? I mean, you've talked on live about rumors. What rumors are swirling? Can you talk about what reality is? Like what's happening in your world?
Yes and no. So I can't really go more into details because we're still doing full investigation. So whoever's spreading rumors and stuff, of course not. I've never been tested for anything of that sort, but I do know that there's some rumors going around that Darren was definitely fucking on some steroids, and we all saw it. We all saw it the last weigh-ins. We all saw it compared to the last match that we had against each other, and right before me. Within that time that he had, the time frame that he had, it just come on. You can tell the difference, but other than that, I can't really disclose more information because we're in a pending investigation. But everyone's going to see it publicly.
Interesting. Okay, so there is something going on. You can't talk about what that is, but for you on your side, any rumors that are accusing you of steroid usage are completely untrue, is what you're saying.
Completely untrue. No, I've been around the fight game for a very long time, so I've been tested negative the whole freaking time. I've been around that, and for that to be affecting my career and how people look at me as a professional athlete, it kind of sucks. But at the same time, like if I was on steroids, this whole fucking division would be destroyed for real. Is it lagging?
Not much. What'd you make of kind of what happened at the top of? Well, we'll go Brandon Rhodes, Trenton Bordeaux, and then we'll also go obviously move on to the main event, Brandon Bordeaux versus Isaiah Quinones. What were your thoughts on all of that?
Well, first off, so I always come up with the best nicknames for this sport. You know, we got the bitcher, the butcher, we got lady, pretty boy, and now we have the ass ripper. So the ass ripper, you know, defeating someone that's unranked and then fucking shooting past the chief would put him down in his ass. That's, you know, I don't know if that's a favoritism there, but it kind of feels like it's more of a political thing that's happening within the sport. What I thought about that match and what I saw with the Bordeaux family and, you know, with Isaiah and stuff, I know there's been a lot of controversy with clubbing and stuff, and I did see some of the replays that the bitcher put out. So I'm like, damn, you know, they're getting away with a lot of stuff. And, you know, that's the thing. Why do we have these rules? Why do we have these rules if we're not going to obey by these rules? You know, there's a lot of missed calls. There's a lot of fucking shit that wasn't called at all. And that's totally disrespect towards the sport. That's what, you know, that's my mindset on it.
What about Stunt Marshall getting it done in round one again? What did you think of that? Still, you know, I mean, you had this in the beginning of your career, right? No shots before you, you're just knocking people out as soon as you got a chance to hit them. You know, Stunt's kind of going through the same pathway. Is it hype? Is it real? Like, what are your thoughts?
I like his hype. You know, I love the way that he carries himself because, you know, he's transitioning from WWE and or whatever he does, wrestling, and they have a lot of shit talk in there. So carrying himself the way that he does, it's very good for the sport. But then again, he hasn't really been hit. He hasn't really been hit from someone that has power and has that knockout power. To me, I would love to face him, you know, later on in the future, but you definitely have to climb the ranks just like how everyone else did.
Awesome, man. Corey?
Keith, man, how's life been? Are you in Oklahoma? Or are you on the island? Where are you at these days?
I'm in Hawaii, beautiful Hawaii.
Nice,
Yeah.
nice. Obviously,
Enjoying the beach, training.
Absolutely, man. I'm sure you've seen the interview that we did with Frank, and you know the continued desire to get to Hawaii. It's seemingly even more swirling.
I would love that.
Speculation. I mean, right now there's some rumor and speculation. I won't, you know, say anything specific, but seemingly like it could happen here relatively early on. If it was to happen, do you have any idea where you think it would happen? Where is it actually viable to happen? And really, how would the crowd in the audience? Because we know there is a massive contingent of Hawaiians and Paulies that are on the roster. Talk to me about how this would truly take place, and you know, would it blow the roof off or what?
100%. We have a lot of support here in Hawaii, and you know, there's a lot of polys in this game. So bringing both either UFC and Power Slap to Hawaii would be amazing. It'd be a full-on sellout. Everyone would be outside just losing their shit. But with the infrastructure, I believe Max said it well. We don't really have an infrastructure for that. So taking the time to go and build something, Mark, if you're seeing this, build something quick. You know, build something quick. You got the money to do so. You got the land to do so. But you know, that's the thing. There's a lot of time that's going to be put into that, and we possibly won't see Hawaii probably later on next year or the following year. So it's all up to them.
You're saying like the university doesn't have a basketball court that fits like 4,000 people or anything?
We do have a university, but it's not where it's not gonna please the fans to where we really want. We really want everyone from around the islands. It's not gonna fit that much. We have everyone that will fly in from other islands. It's not just about Oahu. Everyone will be flying in from other islands just to see this happen. This is the biggest. If it were to happen, this would be the biggest event here in Hawaii. So if we do have something like that, I mean, hopefully it happens, but we'll see.
Amazing. You know, just to clarify for the viewers, like, so what is your status? I mean, like, are you able to fight now? I know you talked about a pending investigation. Do you know, like what your turnaround is going to look like right now?
From what I was told from Boss Man, I have, I guess, 6 to 9 months or something. but I know that it's being reduced. You just got to be honest with the commission, and that's one of the main things that I love doing is just being honest. But you guys will see me very soon for sure. As soon as this stuff is sorted, you guys will see me again.
Understood. Yeah. Well, we'll wait and see the conclusion of it and where it goes from there. But I'm not sure if you're aware or not, but Merlis Musikis, fellow road to the title contender, is going to be coming back to Abu Dhabi. I don't think you fought him. I think Darren fought him. Correct me if I'm wrong on the show. But what do you know about him? And his skill set, his mind frame, his mentality. Because I mean, we didn't get to see too much from him on the show. You being there in the house with him, etc. Can you give us any insight into him as a slap fight competitor, and if you think he's got a future here at the middleweight division?
Yeah, he does. I mean, what happened with his fight again? Darren had flinched again. I watched the footage, and it's not just with me; it's just with everyone else. And I see that there's a lot of fucking favoritism there. So being against someone that just doesn't give his chin, I mean, how can things play out well for you? If you are taken away from that slap that you're trying to deliver, and then being knocked out after, and the fucking master flincher didn't fucking get called on it, then it affects your record. But I see him as a future competitor too. I don't know much about him, but I would love to see him in the future.
Understood, man. And I appreciate you giving a little bit more insight to it. I know you seem to have an issue with Brennan Rhodes leapfrogging you in the rankings. So I want the official Chief number 1 through 5 rankings in the middleweight division.
For me, it doesn't really matter. I could care less about the rankings, to be honest.
Well, I care.
Yeah, I know everyone else cares about the rankings. That's beautiful. That's okay. That's cool. But at the same time, to me, it's just another body in front of me, another soul for me to take, another job for me to freaking take off from their head, But it doesn't really matter who's next. It could be number 4. It could be number 3. But other than that, like I said, beating someone that's unranked and then fucking surpassing someone that knocked you out cold, bro. I mean, don't get into your feelings. And you know what I mean? It's just like, it is what it is.
Yeah.
But he should have fought against someone that was ranked. He should have fought against someone like freaking Wesley. He was ranked and he's waiting for a comeback. He should have went against someone that actually had the experience. So if you went against someone like that, I believe he wouldn't be in the top 3. So
yeah. Well,
there's a lot of political win.
Let me rephrase it. So we know what Power Slap's ranking are. I want the Chiefs rankings. I want 1 through 5, where you think each of the guys, and it could be anywhere on the roster. I want the Chiefs ranking 1 through 5.
I am the fucking best of the best. That's
so you're number 1.
So I'm surpassed number 1. I'm not going to be the contender. I am the future of this fucking middleweight division. So I am the future champ. I just have to go through the rest of this weak man in order to do so. So.
All right, then who's right behind you? Who's on your heels then?
Who's on my heels?
We'll classify that as 2.
Out of the 5?
Out of whoever, any middleweight on the roster.
Oh, I would love to go against Stuntman for sure, but it feels like everyone's calling him out. So I'm not someone to go and reach out for someone that's not in the top 5. But if it's someone that's below me and someone that has the credibility right now, I'll go against Stunt Marshall for sure.
You think Stunt Marshall's number 2? What about number 3? Who's sniffing, behind Stunt Marshall?
I really want to go against John Davis, 100%. Okay. We never really had that time to settle the score, so John Davis should be on the list, 100%.
Okay. So
or Lady Boy, or the Bitcher, it doesn't really matter.
All right, so we're getting somewhere there. I don't know. I think we belabored it enough, but we get the drift of where we're going. So awesome, man. No, I appreciate you joining us. Great catching up. Great to see you again. Glad you were able to debunk some of the myths and rumors and speculations swirling around yourself and Darren. And as always, that middleweight division continues to keep on roaring forward. Obviously, we have a new champ right now, and if things go your way in the relatively near future, you want to have a say in the future of the outlook of the division. So All right, my
Good
man.
to see you.
Much love, buddy. We'll talk soon.
Much love, guys.
All right, ding. There we go. The chief. Was I not speaking English? Or I don't know. I was trying to get a top 5 ranking. Wasn't quite getting there. I don't know. You can call me. Maybe I'm out of my element today. I don't know.
I mean, look, it's tough, man. I mean, in some ways that's flattery, right? And the chief doesn't strike me as a guy that wants to flatter anybody, any of these other guys. Um, you know, I think we've seen him be friendly, and this is what's really interesting is him and Darren appeared to be friendly in New Orleans.
Mhm.
They do not appear to be friendly anymore. Like that paradigm is weird, right? When you guys were about to fight, normally it's the opposite, right? You have a problem, you fight, you no longer have a problem. In this case, they felt like best friends, and I don't mean that in any disrespectful way, but they felt like really. I mean, they were hanging out together the whole week. It was,
Mhm.
I mean, weird is I would say weird, but I mean, in power slap that's more common than it is in any other combat sport. And then they fight, and now they hate each other for the second time they fight. On top of that, like,
Yeah.
and then the accusations of this or that, and it's unusual. So,
Mhm.
but again, like if there's rumors, I think that it's important for people to be given a platform to clear them up, and of course, we want to be respectful of kind of how we do that, and so hopefully,
Mhm.
he was able to clarify what he was allowed to clarify based on whatever guidance he's received. So,
Cool.
as the chief said, I'll echo him. We'll see him very soon.
Awesome. Awesome. Any rumors and speculation in the heavyweight division?
Yeah, there's a rumor right now that Damon DeBell's the baddest motherfucker on the planet. I think there might actually be some truth to that, though. I'm not 100% sure.
Okay, I wasn't sure because I see we got one large human sitting there in the waiting room, so I didn't know what's teeing up here.
Yeah, let's bring him in. He is none other than the 6'7", the Colossus, Mr. Aaron Turner. Is he there? In the flesh?
We don't have Aaron yet. There we go.
There he is. Mr. Aaron Turner, how are you, sir?
Good. How you doing, Ding?
Thanks for being patient, man.
I
We
don't really
appreciate
care.
it.
How you doing, Corey?
Good, man. How about yourself?
I'm good, man. It's always good to see you, Corey.
Great to see you, dude. Great to see you.
Man, I love the heel thing on you, man. I gotta admit, I won't handle you with kid gloves. I think that would be unfair.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I am curious. You're now 2 weeks or so, a little less than 2 weeks removed from probably the greatest, and I don't mean this to glaze or anything, probably the greatest slap fight in power slap history. Just the energetic, right? The roller coaster that you and Nate created. So the Son of Victory is just a curveball. But let's just say that that's a 5-round fight and that happens without the Son of Victory. I think the Son of Victory changes everything, right? Because it's like, well, hold on. Now everything you just did doesn't matter. Now you got to go. So I've said this, I think maybe once before. Very rarely does the loser still win in power slap. I absolutely think, even though you did not get your hand raised that night, I don't think your stock went down at all. My first question is, do you agree with that assessment? Do you feel like a winner even in defeat?
I would say no, just as a competitor. I definitely appreciate what you said there, Ding, especially your output on it. A lot of people had their own outputs on it, whether if it was rigged, whether if it was, he didn't deserve the win. But at the end of the day, Nate Bernard got his hand raised, and in a sport like this, you got to respect it. So I have no hatred or animosity towards Nate. I mean, he just competed the way that he needed to compete. I can never be mad about that. However, I kicked myself watching the film a little bit to where I felt like I put my foot off, the buffalo's neck is what I feel like I did. And that's a bad, bad mistake to make for anybody. So that's something I had to learn the hard way. Nate was down, he got up. Within the rounds, he progressed. He did what he had to do. He had that grit and he finished the fight the way he needed to. Whether if I agree with it or not, I talked to my family about it. They felt like it should have ended early. I talked to other people. They felt like it should have ended early, but the result is Nate Bernard won, and that's just the way it is. However, with my stock, I'm just being optimistic. I didn't move from 7. I haven't moved from 7 all year. I lost to Wes Mena in March. I didn't get moved. I beat Rowe I didn't get moved. Losing Nate in a sudden death, still haven't moved. So I'm very optimistic with these next two, fights coming up in Saudi and Dubai. Where I might be if either off the rankings or I just stay at number 7.
I mean, having watched it back, obviously, I think to ask you about it on that night would be you'd have a different answer. But having looked at it and reviewed it, I'm sure many times as a competitor.
Oh, absolutely, more than a handful of times.
Do you feel like, I mean, were you kind of looking at that like, even the commentary was losing it. I won't lie, and I was like, I thought it was over. Same way I thought it was over when Chief knocked Brandon Rhodes down with a club. I thought it was over, right? And they let him recover, and it was just I was super confused. The Nate thing, he's laying down. I think he was still on the ground until like 5 or maybe 6. Then he starts slowly getting up, but like normally by 8, guys are on their feet and sort of already proven that they're good. I think at 8 he was kind of thinking about getting to his feet. It was tough, man. The commentary was freaking out. If you mute it though, I still was kind of like, that's a close one. What was your assessment of what happened after the knockdown? Like, what do you think went wrong? Did Jason give him too much time? Did he slow the countdown? Like, what do you think? Because Jason Herzog, I will say, if you look at all his officiating, he generally is more fair to the athlete, right? And this is something that I don't think people really talk about. But if you look at, I'll just take baseball for a quick example. The umpire is sometimes pitcher favored, sometimes batter favored, right? Jason Herzog generally is defender favored in the sense that he gives people more time than not if he can. We've seen this time and time again where he's like, all right, they're on their feet. They're not really wobbly. Like, Jason does not want to call things off prematurely, I find, in my experience with his matches. I was very surprised by this one, though. I won't lie to you. Obviously, the story, it isn't a big story if that didn't happen. But what was your honest assessment when you were looking at that? Like, man, he shouldn't have let him. Like, what did you really think?
Well, me, I like to be political. Before I get into it, I just want to say that all hats off and respect to Jason Herzog. Every ref is different, especially Mark Smith. I'm actually 0-2 with Jason Herzog, so I think I got to butter him up a little bit. But he's a guy that just tends to let things like just proceed, continue to fight. So I can't hate him for that, really. The way that I struck Nate, I like the placement that I had. In fact, I wish I stuck with that technique throughout all 4 rounds that we went, but again, that's just a mental error that I made. I was very shocked because he was on the ground for a while. I thought Nate's usually a guy that once he gets hit, his tendency is to come up, and I think from his last match or a couple of matches ago that he got put down, he's done that continuously. So I think it got to a point where he's like, okay, I'm going to take my time. But then when I saw him on his side kind of doing what I like to call finger push-ups, that's where I was just like, I think it's over. I think it's done. But Nate prevailed. He got up right at the 9-10 count, and Jason just continued on with the fight. That was his decision. That's his discretion. I can't really judge Jason Herzog's discretion of the fight, how it goes. So he calls it the way he wanted to, and it just continues on. I mean, there's no complaining about it or anything. What he says goes. How he calls it is just how it goes.
Now, watching it back, was anything different in your head? As for like, again, in real time, things seem different, right? You just absorbed the shot. You're giving actually, you struck first, right?
No, Nate did. He twice
okay,
actually.
So you did just absorb the shot.
Yeah,
it was the flinch. So you get hit, and now you just hit, and now you're knocking them down. The crowd erupts. It's live, so there's people everywhere. Like, that moment is not really the time for you to assess. You're just like, either the fight's over, or it's not. You're trying to figure out what the referee's saying, where they're at in the count, whatever. But when you watch it back now, all the variables are off. It's at your own leisure. So did anything change when you watched it back as far as how you thought that process went, and if you felt like, wow, like I actually believe even more now that this should have been stopped, or maybe you went the opposite way. We're like, you know what? Actually, it felt like, longer in person, but maybe it wasn't that long.
I mean, again, I did get to watch it more than a handful of times. I definitely believe that he was down and it should have been called the way it was, but that just wasn't the result. So, I mean, that's just the way it is. And, sometimes it doesn't go your way. So, yeah, there was some frustration, watching it. But again, I'm not going to be mad that the match continues. When the job's finished, you need to finish it, not when you feel like it's finished. So if you need to go that extra mile, you need to go that extra mile. And that's something I didn't do, and that's why Nate is here with the win.
Now, talk to me about what your understanding with the Southern Victory round was. Like, obviously, we saw he collects you both. Hey, this is what's happening. We're at a draw. We're going to go to another round. Were you aware that that fourth round acts as a standalone round and it has nothing to do with the previous 3 rounds? Meaning, whoever wins this round wins the fight. Like, were you clear on that?
I was, by the way, Jason was talking about it. I mean, it's been implemented in last December, but that had been a while. You know, but Jason did say that, hey, this round is going to be based off who gets the highest score. And, just my only mistake from that, I didn't, brace quick enough, for my breathing wasn't good enough. And, Nate landed with a clean shot, and probably the cleanest shot that you can really think of. And he just made it happen. So, it was actually the first time I've ever been knocked down, whether it was boxing. I competed in boxing for a little bit. Power slaps, my first time ever going down. So it was a weird feeling for sure. I could think was my whole body was moving, just my legs just stopped moving until I decided to move. It was like midair, kind of moving a little bit, like falling in a dream a little bit is what it felt like. And as soon as I hit the ground, I was like, I gotta get my butt up. So the rules were definitely explained. Like, I think just Herzog just said, hey, we're going another round. And it's been brought up before a few times. So it got brought up between us when we're both, conscious and understanding of it. So I was aware that it was going to be a last round. And definitely, to the striker's point and Nate's point, I mean, he made the strike count. He swung as hard as he could. He was on point and he made it count.
Obviously, you kind of, I guess, something uncharacteristic of you, right? We see the bottom of your shoes for the first time. Most athletes are, they don't want to get dropped, of course. But in your experience, being that this has never happened to you and you were able to overcome it, get back to your feet and continue, is a part of you kind of like, all right, cool, I'm glad I got that out of the way. Now I know what it feels like. So that next time, if it does happen, I'm not, because we see this a lot, right? Guys that don't have experience facing that level of adversity, in power slap especially, they get up too quickly, right? That balance doesn't make its way back yet. And then they get the fight called off because they get, what Michael Bisping calls a stanky leg. Is part of you kind of like, you know what? Like, all right, I'm glad that is part of my toolkit now, that I've come back from, a shot that put me on my ass.
I'm a little skeptical about it. Yes, I feel good that it's like it finally happened. Like, it's almost like you've been humbled. So I definitely do feel good about it. But then another part of me is like, okay, now that I know that what it feels like, Nate has said this before, like he's been knocked down before, knocked out before. I'll say knocked down because he's mostly been knocked down and they called it. He said it's been much easier to get knocked down again. So I think just for me, it's a positive because I can work more on my neck strength, my chin, my jaw, and everything. So I feel good about it. I don't see that ever happening again, but when you hit the right spot, you hit the right spot. The more I think about it is I took 5 slaps for a 3-round fight. And I took all of his strikes, despite the flinch, obviously, and the couple controversial, some people are saying, I took them all. So, I have very much a lot of faith in my chin. I just got to be confident in it. And I felt like my last 4 fights, I just haven't. So I think it's just about that time where I have confidence in my chin that I can stand along with anybody.
Awesome, man. Corey?
Aaron, I know we spoke, not too long ago. Kind of did a wrap up, so I'm not going to belabor too much about the fight here. But as of right now, let's kind of set the framework. You're sitting there with a record of 2-2. You've lost to guys that are ahead of you in the rankings currently. You've beat guys that are below you. Everybody essentially in the heavyweight division, except for Ponopal ahead of you, currently has matches booked. What's next for Aaron Turner?
That's something I'm very skeptical about. Starting off, I beat the number 4 ranked, and then lost to the number 6, beat an unranked by unanimous decision, and then sudden death, lost to a number 2. So I'm hoping that my performance is enough to keep me in the top 10. I realistically believe I should be in the top 5, but that's not what it shows. I hope I could stay in the position that I am right now. And even with the next 2 cards showing up, that they don't decide to be like, hey, this guy deserves to be here. I've been controversial about the rankings, and no hatred towards anybody, Brandon Rhodes has really upped his craft. I'll give him that. He's definitely improved since Power Slap 11. He did well in NOLA. He beat the number one ranked, an OG and the legend, and he took out Trent. But he moves up to number 3. I think that's a little questionable, but again, I think he's well deserving of his progress, so I'm not going to take that away from him. And just from the heavyweights, Johnny Magna, this was his second one, and he did prevail, and he made the top 10. I'm surprised he wasn't, put in to the 9 or something like that, because I know Brian Ellis deserves to be in the top 10. And then there's Jordan Oasis. I get he's a big WWE star, he has a lot of following, but he had one match against nobody. So at this point, I would take anybody above me, whether if it's Pono Power or someone who's number 4, or even the James Seekman who I was supposed to have. I'd take any of those, or anybody that's, below me. I'll take on anybody any day at any time. I don't fear nobody. I'm not afraid of nobody, and I'll take on anybody, but I hope they know that I'm not going to be an easy fight. They're going to have to train hard and have to be prepared.
For sure. I think, Ding kind of said it, when the match with you came up, Brian Ellis was ranked number 6, and, it was a match he didn't have to take with you,
He was number 4.
He was 4 at that time. Okay. Number 4. So yeah, but I believe you were unranked, correct?
Yeah, I was unranked. Yes.
So, fast forward now, I don't know, better part of a year and a half, 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
You could inevitably see yourself in that same opportunity. Your next time you get an opponent could be an unranked guy, or it could be one of Jordan Oasis and or Johnny Magna. Would you return the favor now, what Brian Ellis did, and be a company man and take on somebody like that potentially who isn't ranked?
Absolutely. I'll take on anybody. I know some guys like to take the higher ranks, the higher fights just to move their ranking up. But as you see, there's like guys like Brendan Rhodes who's been killing it, beat the number 1 ranked Emmanuel Muniz, and then he went against an unranked, which I'm pretty sure that's not what he wanted, but he took it because he knew it was going to be opportunity. And you see, he skyrocketed up the rankings. Not saying he's well deserving of it or anything like that. He's been working for it. So I will take on anybody and anyone at any time if it means the title shot for me, because I know from this fight, I know my stock might go up, as people say, but that's up to Power Slap. I have to be optimistic of what's next in the future for myself. Finding someone that's not ranked, or somebody that's below me, or someone above me, I'll take on anybody to move up.
I think a lot of, leading into this match, I think the question mark surrounded it, is, can Aaron Turner translate that power? Big frame, 6'7", they're coming in 262, 263 at the top of the weight class. I think with this performance with Nate, I think you definitely showed, a positive step forward in regards to your offensive game. We've seen your defensive game now as well. Obviously, being able to withstand 5 strikes, like you said, in a 3-round match. I mean, that's championship rounds at this particular point. If you want to get super critical from now until your next fight, and when you look at yourself in the mirror, what do you say, me, Aaron Turner, what do I have to improve on to be better next time out?
A whole bunch of things, but I'm going to go ahead and keep it short. The flinching just has to stop. Obviously it's a natural reaction. It's not anything to hurt my opponent. When I did it to Nate, I know I kind of ducked it a little bit, but I raised my baton. I look at him and go, "Hey, dude, my bad." So people know in my division it's not on purpose or my intention to hurt anybody. And another thing is, I think I need to stand by what I say. By my matches are always going to come down to who wants it more. And that's something I really stand by, is who really wants it more, because it's much different on stage than the training you've been doing. And, obviously it showed itself by Nate's been talking about, I've lost 3 in a row. If I lose another one, I could be done. So I think he's just taking every one of his matches like it's his last. And I think with the performance he had, I see it being a hard problem for people to even stop him, because when you have a lot to lose, I think that's when you're a dangerous fighter. He was calm. He worked on his form. He'd been working hard for a year off. I thought he would be a little rusty, but he didn't look rusty at all Friday, October 3rd. So I think just for me, I have to be mentally focused, locked in throughout the whole thing, not because I just put somebody down or I had a couple good rounds. Like, I got to finish the fight and I got to finish what I need to do, not let it go to decision like it did.
For sure. They can get something that turn, Aaron.
I gotta call an audible.
Okay.
We didn't mention this, and this is our fault. We didn't mention this. Frank, clarified that Austin Turpin is going to be at heavyweight in the moving forward. And I think a lot of people want that match, but like Corey said, most of the guys at the top of the division are booked for matches at the moment. Is Austin Turpin somebody that you would be eager to, I know that you'll take any fight that they give you, but I just mean somebody that you're like, you know what, I would actually love to face him because it's one of the bigger names that we've ever had that are organically grown from Power Slap. Obviously, I think he's hurt himself in a lot of ways with all the antics and the missing weights and all that kind of stuff, disappearing and all, but it is what it is. I still believe though, the showmanship, people look forward to him. I think a lot of people know who he is no matter what, which is something that a lot of athletes have had trouble kind of achieving. Is Austin Turpin the right guy for you to sort of say, you know what, I'm here to stay, and I can make something of a guy who everybody seems to believe in. Obviously it's at heavyweight, so there's some differences there, right? He's been the guy at light heavyweight. This is a different division, but at light heavyweight, he's been in the heavyweight weight bracket. So I don't know, uh, you know, is that somebody that you're like, you know what, I would love to shut him up, or whatever your version of that might be?
Yeah, absolutely. Turpin's just one of the faces of Power Slap, just like, Nate is, whether he believes it or not. So those are people I love to go against. Nate's demeanor, I mean, like, he's a humble dude, he's straight up, he's a real one, which he's one of one. Not many people can really, claim that. And that's just the way that he is. So, you gotta love him. And when it comes to being on the stage, he'll dominate. So with Turpin, I know he's definitely a face too. He's been dominant, in his fights. And, the weight problem thing, I'm sure there's some personal reasons going on. Again, it's none of my business. But I would definitely like to welcome him to the heavyweight and definitely face him. I think it would also create a lot of fireworks. So it's definitely a fight I definitely want to. That's a guy I also watched, getting in the Power Slap and, getting my name out there, seeing if I could join. So he's definitely a guy I definitely like to go against and brag about towards my fellows back home. Right now I'm in New York, so back home would be great.
Yeah, I'd love, Johnny Magna. I don't know if you saw his post fight, but he kind of said you or Austin Turpin were two guys that he was looking at. I like both of those matches for you, but what I can tell you is it's a totally different pace because those guys got a lot of this going on.
Right.
And,
for sure. I know.
We haven't seen that with you yet.
I like to say something about Johnny for sure. Coming in, I'll be honest, and I've said this to a couple of the wrestlers that they've definitely gained our respect. At the beginning, I was a little skeptical about it, just like through the training camps and stuff like that, because I know their day-to-day is traveling, training, selling out shows and stuff like that. Like, I didn't think they'd take this serious, but they definitely have. And it's shown, with Stunt, like, he has a hell of a swing. He's also a baseball player, so he has that rotation. He's been wrestling forever. And then you got, Johnny, who, he does a lot on the side. He wrestles. He's a comedian. So he's good on the mic, and he's been killing it in the slap so far. I mean, I'm not a big advocate of filming my workouts, but again, do what you want to do. But he's definitely gained the respect of the heavyweight division, and he's been killing it, and it's been proven, obviously. So I'd definitely be optimistic and excited to go against Johnny if that was ever the chance that was going to happen. But till then, I'm just waiting to see what Power Slap has for me, whether if they see me as a solid still 7 throughout the whole year, or they put me against someone above or below me. So it really doesn't matter. It's just the opportunity for me.
Well, awesome, man. Thanks so much for your time. We appreciate it. Joining us. Obviously, if you're here up here, we're in my neck of the woods. It's later for you. Almost 10 o'clock here, but we appreciate it, man. I say this objectively. I think, like I said, if not the best match in Power Slap history, I think at least top 3 that you and Nate put on, and that took two people to do so. Congratulations to you. I know maybe it doesn't feel like it, right? Because you only got one check, but no, you got a performance of the night too, so you did get a second check. Anyway,
we did, but at the end of the day, yeah, at the end of the day, I'm grateful to go and get somebody like Nate, and I've been talking about it for a while. He's a gentleman, he's a sportsman, and I definitely understood what was at stake for him, and also I understood what was at stake for me. Was keeping my top 10 and possibly moving up to being closer to the title. So, obviously I'm not happy with the result, but, I am happy for Nate because he gets to continue on. He's on to bigger and better pastures, forward. And I hope he gets the opportunities that he's well deserving because, I think he's been doubted. A lot of people didn't believe he was supposed to be number 2. In fact, I didn't believe he should be number 2, but at least a top 5. So it was a grateful opportunity. I couldn't think of anybody better I want to compete with. And I'm glad that we put on a performance. I was probably, like you said, top 3. I would personally say number 1, but again, we can let the fans decide that.
Yeah, I'll be honest, man. You gonna argue with me all day if you think this is a better one. I can't think of any, and I've seen them all. So,
Yeah.
but I'll fight that battle on your behalf. But like I said, thank you, man. We really appreciate your time. It's great to hear your insight and kind of where your head's at after an incredible moment. I think you guys stole the show, and I think anybody's excited to see both what you and Nate do, come here in the future. So thank you very much, man. Appreciate you staying up late for us, and stay safe out here in these streets.
Hey man, I'm a celebrity out here, man. You know how it is, man. They love me out in New York. Maybe not Dutchess County too much, but they love me out here. I love New York. It's been a great experience so far. But yeah, I'm just whatever happens, happens. Hopefully near future, me and Nate run it again. If not, I pray and wish success to him. Throughout this whole thing, he deserves it.
Awesome, man. Thanks so much, Aaron. We'll talk soon.
Thanks, Dane. Appreciate it, Corey.
Take care, dude. Talk soon.
Cheers, brother.
All right, ding. There we go. One Aaron Turner. Also had the Chief on earlier. Great to have both these guys. I mean, guys that are obviously, kind of in the mix, in the thick of it all. Good opportunity for these guys to get in. And like we said, there's a lot of slap fighting, power slap to come in the rest of October. Overall, I mean, Aaron's in a tough spot. I think he's very much in that Brian Ellis position where he's going to get somebody underneath him in the rankings, going to welcome him in. You're going to question, does Aaron need to take this fight? What does it do for his, stardom, whether or not, win, lose, or draw? Does it help his stock? But I think in the end of the day, I think this is where Aaron is right now in his career. He's 2-2 and, is going to have that opportunity to continue to fight. But I think he's got to kind of earn those fights back to kind of get the guys, in front of him right now. And so we'll see. Definitely has a lot more to give. And I think as experience comes along, I think Aaron's going to get better and better. I think even showing this Nate fight, I think is the best, all around fight that he's really brought to the table. So definitely a lot of stock to go.
Yeah, I mean, you got to consider what kind of opposition a guy like that's been put up against. I think, and we talked about this, right? There's some missteps, and timing's got a lot to do with it. Who's hot at the time, and I guess I'll say the landscape of the division, right? He takes on Brian Ellis, who at the time was, towards the upper echelon of the division, but they really hadn't injected that new wave of talent fully into heavyweight yet, right? We were still kind of coming off the show, and that wave of heavyweights came from season 3. So he had the Brian Ellis match, right? Emphatic performance. Brian Ellis was a guy that he had the performance against Miles Jackson, right? The DQ on season 2, and then we were kind of waiting, like, okay, when's the next big moment going to come? And it really didn't come. And Aaron Turner shows up, does this incredible thing on the tape fights of, I think, Power Slap 10. Fast forward, now he's fighting Wes Mena, who at the time had three matches against unranked guys. So that experience is different, right, for Wes being the striker that he was. So Wes goes from that, gets the decision victory against Aaron. Then Aaron fights Ro Montana, who only ever had a fight against a super heavyweight who was 100 pounds heavier than him and got disqualified. And then he gets put up against Nate, who's got a ton of experience. So I just think, although he's got rounds in, he's also not facing guys who have had significant rounds against other experienced people. So I think all of that is important to consider as well, right? At this point, Aaron's got 4 fights, and if you look at the combined, as far as the people that he's faced, Ro Montana faced an unranked guy in his debut. Wes Mena faced 3 unranked guys in the fights that he had before Aaron. Brian Ellis maybe faced like one, maybe 2 ranked people at the time in the top 10. But again, the division was much different back then. So, and then you got Nate, who's faced the champion, who's faced the number 1, who's faced, he went up against Dwayne Crespo. Like, Nate has done his rounds. And so I just think that level is different. And I think this is important for Aaron's future and his career, just to learn and kind of get those different looks from guys who have been there, done that. Because like I said, people on the internet all day talk about how, simple this is. And then, people are just slapping each other and blah, 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 blah. But it all matters, right? Mm-hmm. If you've been knocked down, if you've gotten back up from that knockdown, if you've recovered from adversity or you haven't, if you've been hit multiple times, all of that stuff's important. So I think for Aaron, looking at him, but then also his opponents, I think all of that is very valuable.
For sure. And I mean, you kind of touched on a little bit. I know we ran the clip over on Slap News on our Instagram page, but one Juicy and the potential of taking on Kalani Vakmalola. I mean, talk to me about that match. I mean, is that a superstar match that's very low key right now, that when you look back on it later, could have the sprinklings of Nate Bernard, Aaron Turner on it. Could you see that be a match that elevates this from being, knee slap fighting to something that embraces, the culture even more? I mean, heaven forbid it happened in Hawaii. Imagine what that would be like. But do you kind of see this potentially as being, an earth-shattering match? And I'm not just saying that because they're super heavy, but what's the overall impact if that match was to get booked?
Yeah, I think Polynesians in general are obviously we've seen it right across the board, just how they kind of rally behind one another, even if it's the obviously there's different cultures behind that, right? You have the Tongans, the Samoans, the Hawaiians, and then ultimately, so far we've seen Kalani versus the Crazy Hawaiian and Micah versus Juicy. Those are the only two Polynesian matches, unless I'm wrong, that have ever happened in Power Slap. Micah versus Juicy is Samoan versus Tongan. Hawaiian versus Kalani is Hawaiian versus Tongan. So Tongan versus Tongan, Hawaiian versus Hawaiian, Samoan versus Samoan. I think all of that is massive because there's no loser, right? Sure, if it's Polynesian, there's no loser for Polynesians, but now you get even more specific to a particular culture of people who are very prideful and proud, and rightfully so, right? Because it is a very decorated and entrenched culture in warrior spirit, and it's just different, man. And I've never seen it. And I think the excitement that you can see from those representatives of that culture, from like I said, for Juicy and for Kalani both. We haven't heard a lot from Kalani. I know he just had a child, pretty recently that he's made publicly, known. So congratulations to him and his wife on a beautiful baby girl. But I mean, the last time we saw him, he looked incredible, and so you can't help but think when he comes back, he's going to get somebody that's up there. And Juicy's making his way at this point. I think he's at number 7, if I remember correctly. He's making his way up there, and like Juicy said, this is bigger than him. This is bigger than Kalani, and it's something that they want to do culturally. I don't think there's any reason why they should look away from this match, right? McKinney's doing his thing with Dumpling to figure out what's next for Hitman. That stuff will all be there, right? I think Juicy needs more rounds anyway, and Kalani, let's see if the top of the division, if he can continue to do the stuff that he's been doing, after the loss to Hawaiian, right? He's been on the straight and narrow, kind of back on the right track. Obviously had an incredible victory over Danny, but we want to see a little bit more, right? Obviously there was a slap dog match for him, and he was very active, and then had a child, and he's kind of fell off. And obviously he replied to this though. He responded to it publicly, so I do think one, he's interested, and two, I think that it's meaningful to them in some way, and I think people would be incredibly excited for it.
Yeah, I agree, man. I mean, I look here at the super heavyweight rankings. Just to clarify, Juicy sitting at number 6, Kalani sitting at number 4 right now. I mean, we have a phenomenal lineup here right now. If you look at, you have Dumpling going up against, McKinney Manu. So you got 1 and 3. We still have the Crazy Hawaiian there in the ranking at number 2. Obviously, we expect he's going to drop out. But I mean, if you were to pair up Juicy versus Kalani, absolutely phenomenal match. But then let's even just go 5 and 7 potentially. Donnie Van Heerden versus Cedrice. I actually think that's a very, very good matchup to take place. I mean, obviously we've seen Cedrice coming in. Danny's got a ton of experience. I don't want to put the cart before the horse, and but they put him in at number 7. So they appreciate the knockout that he was able to deliver on that night. So obviously there's some hype. Danny's sitting there at number 5. Like, there's a lot of interesting matches that could take place here in the top of the super heavyweight division. We kind of toyed it off before that, we think this is the next, division to break out, to have storylines that are incredibly deep. And there's definitely a lot to look forward here. So I'm pretty excited for the super heavyweights.
Yeah, man. I mean, we've got a lot of activity coming up here in the next 2 weeks. Not a ton going on in the super heavyweight division. Obviously, the big names, McKinney and Dumpling. I think, but from the perspective of bringing guys in, there's not really a whole lot of people, if I'm not mistaken. I don't there might actually not even be any super heavyweights. There is one. I'm not going to say it because it's not announced yet, but that's on Saudi. That'll bring guys that you kind of have seen before, but not really.
What about
that's it. So yeah, you got one on each.
Yeah, let's just touch on it because we had some, Power Slap alumni competing this past weekend. You want to touch on any of the performances? Did anything stand out to you?
We're talking about the Slap Fight Championship.
Correct. Yeah.
Train wreck.
Cody Cox. We had Corey Corbin.
Yeah, no, Cody Cox. So here's what I'll say, because I'm always the fucking bad guy, so I'll be the bad guy. I do not sign off on or endorse or agree with people doing that many matches in a night. I think it's completely I mean, you want to talk about unsafe? I think that's what people are talking about when they see shit like that, where it's you just competed against this guy, took 5 slaps, now you got to go compete against the next guy. Like, from a safety perspective, count me out. Kudos to Cody Cox for coming out on top, right? I mean, he absorbed some pretty good shit in that first round, or first round meaning his first opponent, and then to come back at the end and kind of. But again, by that point, dude's been hit fucking 20 times. I'm not a fan personally. Who else competed? Corey Corbin. I mean, dude. What do I say? I don't know Corey. I've never met the guy. But all the chirping for that shit to happen, like, I don't know, man. Like, you got to be a little more realistic and honest with yourself when you're out here, spouting stuff, because that was not at all what he's been saying online about what he's going to do when he gets his shot. That was atrocious.
I mean, he called out the big silverback guy, man. I mean, a ballsy move.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like I said, it was rough, man. I mean, no disrespect to the guy, but what am I supposed to say to you?
Yeah, and then
Blake Howard.
Blake Howard as well. Correct.
Right, Blake Howard didn't look bad. I appreciated that he was there. Another guy that most people might not even remember. He never competed in Power Slap, but he was in the camp. He was in the first camp. Cannon Reed. What was his name? He went by whatever his. Somebody in chat help me out. It was Cannon Reed. I don't remember what they were calling him on the show, but he had a great night. He looked good. I mean, that's a guy that you say, okay, now that he's got some reps in, that's great. But I'm sorry, I just can't get behind this like 4 fights in a night thing. It's just not appropriate, and it's sad, man, because you're seeing these guys get fucking beaten and battered by different guys, and kudos to guys like Cody Cox, but he took 9-12 months of damage compared to what he would have taken in Power Slap over the course of a year, and probably got paid fucking triple, quadruple. I know he's been released, and that's no disrespect to him. I'm just saying, like, the return, man, for just to compete, to get hit in the head that many times at once is fucking crazy. Thank you, Esteban. The Punisher is what they were calling him. That's a guy to look out for. I do think that he had a great performance. Obviously, again, he hadn't competed for Power Slap, but he was at the Power Slap Combine, the first one they ever did back in, I think, April. Keep an eye on the Punisher. Hopefully Cody Cox can rally and get back here and quit fucking taking 3 fights in a row, man. I got nothing against Slap Fight Championship. Like, that's their deal, but that shit's crazy. And one night to be getting hit that many times is just completely it's egregious, and it's unsafe.
For sure. And correct me if I'm wrong, was it this weekend there was supposed to be a Slap Fighting Championship taking place in Dubai, but that got canceled, correct?
Yeah, it was coming up this weekend at Beano's Classic. It was supposed to be Slap Fighting Championship. That got moved to, I believe, December. So we'll see. I mean, the matches on there, I don't know if they'll change based on who there was, but I think we'll be able to talk a little bit about their main event if it stays when that time comes. But thank you to Esteban for giving me that layup right there.
Awesome, man. Well, Ding, let's wrap it up, my man. I appreciate you. It's a great opportunity to get back, talk slap fighting. We're 1 week closer once again to Abu Dhabi. The storylines continue to move on. We'll continue as the fighters start to move. Get on the ground in Abu Dhabi. We'll give you the speculation as things kind of roll on here. One little housekeeping thing too. Obviously, Vince Tracy versus Andrew Fields, originally supposed to take place at 155. That has now changed, taking place at 170. I think both these athletes, definitely give kudos to both of them. Andrew Fields taking the fight at 170. He didn't have to do it, but it will give Vin Tracy the same thing, doing the honorable thing, 2.5, 3 weeks before, saying, hey, like, realistically, I can't make this. I can't make this weight. Andrew, can we do this at 170? They both agreed to it. So that match is still going to happen. Obviously, Andrew Fields was supposed to fight earlier in Nolo. That didn't happen. So, to have 2 fights fall out back to back isn't ideal, but, kudos to Vince Tracy for not showing up overweight in Abu Dhabi and doing the honorable thing and giving Andrew Fields time to, adapt accordingly. So kudos to both guys. Ding. Until next time, next week, same place, same time, 6 o'clock in the West, 9 o'clock in the East on Wednesday. Take care, my man.